Hi guys, I know that a lot of you were just on the team call and or our To Be Mindset Q&A. So I'm expecting that a lot of you will probably watch this later since you're like live videoed out for the week, but or for the day at least, and that's okay. This video is one that is going to be part of our new coach training, and it's going to replace one of the ones that I had in there before, and I wanted to get it made before I go to Summit because things are going to be really crazy, busy, and then there's always a lot to catch up on when I get back. So this is kind of my last semi-quiet day to get this video made for you guys before I go, and I think it's really important. So this is about, the topic of this video is your number one most important job as a coach, which is protecting your energy so you can stay in a positive mindset. And when I say this is your number one most important job, I really, really mean that, because your business won't succeed unless and until you can do this. Now, it is a work in progress for all of us, and you can have some moderate level of success without it or without really having mastered it while you're working on mastering it. But the more you can master it, the better your business is going to do. I promise you, it is worth the time that you put into working on this. So I've been a coach now for 4.5 years. It's really crazy. It's kind of a long time, but I would say I've been slow to learn this lesson. And the first couple of years, I mean, all the way up to about a year ago, I had some things happen in my business that were really hurtful, really threw me off track, and that I took really personally. And that was my mistake, to let it affect me that way. And that's what I'm seeing right now. And I don't want to, I'm sensitive to like always like blaming the victim, right? But at the same time, if you're seeing yourself as a victim, that's your first clue, because that's a choice. So if you are dwelling on something that happened to you, yes, it can be helpful to ask, what role did I play in this? That can be helpful for a limited period of time to examine. But there's sometimes bad things happen in life, and there is absolutely nothing you could have done to prevent it. Usually it says, I mean, if it's something that somebody else did to you, as opposed to like the bad things that happen, like a, natural disaster. But if it's something someone else did, usually it says way more about them than it does about you. So you should not consider it to reflect on you. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about if you have someone you were talking to that ends up choosing to join a different team, or even maybe someone you're working with that becomes a coach on another team. I know it maybe even hurts to think about it, especially if you're just getting your first customers, and it can be a really fear-provoking thing to think about that possibility, and it gets you into this mindset where you're feeling like you have to be territorial about people and protect them and do like... So yes, we should always be of service and be generous to our customers, for sure. But it doesn't mean you have to like stay up till 3 a.m, writing messages to a customer for things that they could find out themselves if they like read the book about their program. You have to have good boundaries in place. And in order to have good boundaries in place, so only if you put those boundaries down will your customers respect them. In order to have good boundaries in place, you have to learn to not take things personally. So, again, I don't want you to be operating in this place of fear. That's not the point of this video. The reason I mentioned the kinds of things that can happen is because they happen to all of us. And I want you not to be afraid of it. I want you not to think about it. I want you to go out there, do your best, and trust that you're going to connect with the people who need you, who connect with you, who you are best positioned to help. Focus on being the best coach that you can, and know that maybe some people are better helped by a different coach, and that's okay, because we are all on the same team. We are all working on making the world a healthier place. Sometimes it can really, it can feel like there are a lot of coaches out there, but focus on improving your business, working smarter, deepening your knowledge, refining your coaching skills, because perfect isn't a thing, right? It doesn't exist. Focus on those instead of being in this defensive mode of everyone who's with me now, I have to keep. Because, you know, people quit, like things happen in their life. I don't want you to be focused on that, but it does happen, and you shouldn't feel that it reflects on you if it does happen. I used to be up all night stewing over these things when they happened. Like, what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? It used to, like, and it still does for like a brief time, but it doesn't bother me for like weeks or months on end anymore. I mean, I'm not kidding. Like, it was bad. If somebody quits that I really, you know, thought could succeed in this business, I would feel like I failed at painting the picture for them. Yes, we should try always and paint the picture for how, you know, what this business could do for their life. But ultimately, if they make a decision to go a different direction, that's not on you, and that's not something you could have prevented. That was their decision. Be really clear about what's, like, which balls are in your court and which balls are in their court. You can't control the whole world. It's kind of like a difficult lesson for me to learn. Like, it sounds ridiculous, but it's true. And I know that if I kind of feel that way, where I'm like just trying to control like everything that's going on around me, like, you can't protect yourself from having anything hurtful ever happen to you. It's not possible. Nobody can. So the sooner we make peace with that and focus on what we can control, it's just going to, we're going to be more productive, because operating from a place of fear is never good. But we're also just going to feel better, enjoy life more, and enjoy our business more. So that's what I want for you. So instead of focusing on preventing the negative from happening, which none of us can do, I want you to focus on making your belief in yourself and what you offer steadfast and bulletproof. That is the most important thing you can do for success, for the success of your business. Before you write a new post about your next challenge group, before you start a conversation with someone, I want you to really believe in your heart of hearts that what you offer is so amazing that they would be really dumb not to take you up on it. Okay? I mean, I wouldn't come out and say that and be like, you're an idiot if you don't join this challenge group. Like, I wouldn't put it that way, but that's kind of what you have to think on the inside, that what you have to offer is that good. Not just kind of like, well, it's kind of fun, like, I guess it like works pretty well, but like, no, we have a very effective system of workouts and nutrition and support that, you know, is extremely powerful and life-changing for pretty much anyone who commits to it. And that's just the truth. So work with that and really sit with it before you start your business hours each day. I promise you it will make a difference. Yeah, and of course this is something that helps you in life, not just in business, knowing that the way people treat you says more about them than it does about you. Any of us who's gone through like a significant adversity in life, illness, death, divorce, these things that are very traumatic, you saw who your true friends were, right? And it says a lot about them. Like, if someone drops out of your life when something like that is going on for you, that says a lot about them. It's not your fault when that happens. And by the way, it doesn't mean they're a bad person. Maybe it triggered something in them that they just like couldn't handle it. But the fact is that they weren't there for you in your time of need. But again, it's not like, especially I think divorce is a good example, because we have like a lot of, you know, there can be a lot of guilt or even shame after that, you know, that maybe we feel like there's more that we could have done to make things work, or, you know, all of these preconceived notions we have about like what kind of people get divorced, things like that. And I'm not divorced, but my parents are, and I just know a lot of people who have been. So, okay, but yeah, you know, regardless, when you go through something like that, there's people who are there for you, and there's people who aren't. And it's not because, I mean, it has nothing to do with like whether you did something wrong or you didn't. I mean, even if, like, say, we're getting like really deep in this analogy, but say you cheated on your spouse and that was why the divorce happened. There's still friends who would be like, okay, you know, I know that you did this and I know you're not proud of it and I still love you. And then there's people who, for whatever reason, choose to step away and it's their decision, but it's not your fault that they made that decision. Does that make sense? Hopefully this example is making sense and just clarifying what I mean about the way people treat us being more about them than it is about us. So we have to trust in abundance, okay? You have to trust that you have what it takes to succeed. It's not worth freaking out due to losing one customer. With this, I really love what my upline Star Diamond Meg Kozlowski says. She says there is enough sand at the beach. So like each customer is just a grain of sand. Like that's how many people there are in the world. And of course they're each special and unique, and like we really get to know each grain of sand. But it's a really good analogy that like if a customer chooses to go with someone else, there are other people out there. There are tons of other people out there. Don't fixate on the one person who did you wrong. Instead, try to see it as, okay, this frees up time for me to find someone who like is really clicking with what I offer and who can really benefit from working with me. Because obviously there's something about that wasn't working for them. You know, whether it's anything you did or whether it's them, doesn't really matter. Like what's done is done. Focus on the people who want what you have to offer and just trust that there are plenty of them out there. You just have to find them. Makes it a lot easier. You know, don't give people that power in your life when they're treating you poorly. Focus on the people who don't treat you poorly. And don't get wrapped up in drama. Like nothing is worth disturbing your peace. So I've even tried this, like, I mean, we all have disagreements with our spouse, right? Like no relationship is perfect. So when things get a little heated, when I feel it's almost like a desperate feeling emotionally where I feel like I can't breathe, I've learned to like take a step back and like basically just not say anything when I'm feeling that way. Like go in another room, take a deep breath, kind of think about what's happening for me, what was said, what's happening for him, and then come back and just discuss it from a calm place. And it's so much more productive than if I let my inner 2-year-old do the talking in our conversations. And I think that's kind of, you know, I say inner 2-year-old and we're an adult now. We're all adults. But that inner 2-year-old comes out when we feel certain intense emotions. It happens for all of us. So don't let your inner child do the driving. Like operate from a more emotionally mature place. And if you don't feel like you can, take a break, take a time out, go do something else. Like if you're, for example, there was once, there was a customer, she just was being ridiculous. Like she had just bought her program. She didn't even have her package yet. And I think this was before we had Beachbody On Demand. So like she didn't have her program materials yet. Like she couldn't access them. And she sent me this really long email, basically like ripping the program to shreds of all the reasons why she thought it was junk. Basically, she hadn't done one day of it. She didn't even have the materials yet. And at that time, I was a pretty new coach. It was within my first year. And I took it so personally. I felt like I failed. Like I failed to explain the program to her in a way that she would see the value. In reality, I think that this was a pattern for her based on some other interactions or just things that I've seen on her social media. Yeah, she's like gotten into it in the comments with some of my friends on social media as well. Not the most calm and rational person, let's just say. So there was a pattern there. And, you know, in addition, so what I did was I felt like, I remember I was like in the middle of something else and I was like, I have to answer this email. And I went and I addressed it point by point. And she ended up getting a refund. But she had already made up her mind before she even tried the program. And, you know, instead, first of all, like if you run into someone like that, it might just be better not to work with them. So like, don't necessarily see it as a bad thing if they end up returning their kit. You know, sometimes it's not worth it. Better off just like cutting the ties sometimes. But in addition to that, like, I didn't set a good boundary by replying to her immediately. If I had like given it 24 hours to sit, then I could, and I put way too much of my time into it when she ended up returning her package anyway. Like, she's not a client, she's not paying my bills, she's not working with me as her coach. So in that case, like, why am I spending that much time on her to write a very detailed response? But I felt like I had a responsibility that I had somehow miscommunicated. So better would have been to, again, let it sit for 24 hours, take a step back, take a deep breath, write a shorter response. Essentially, I probably would have said something like, if you give the program a try, I truly believe that a lot of your concerns will be addressed. Something like that. Like, rather than going point by point, just an overall answer, encouraging her to keep an open mind, and then, you know, if she's not willing to do that, the outcome is basically the same, or she would have returned her kit. Or maybe she would have given the program a try with an open mind. I don't know what might have happened, but I didn't set a good boundary with how I responded to her, and I let her disturb my peace. So that is something that I would handle differently if it happened today. So 3 tips for how I have gotten better at not letting anything disturb my peace. Number 1, affirmations, goal setting, keep your eye on the ball. So manage your mental state and beware of anything that's kind of shaking you from your equanimity. This is a big concept in yoga, this like equanimity, balance. And again, it doesn't mean that you don't have feelings. It's not that you're like numb to all feelings, but it's more that you get better and better at recognizing that, okay, something's disturbing my peace, and I'm not going to just ignore it or compartmentalize it. I'm going to stop what I'm doing and take the time to go handle this. Like, there are some really powerful questions. Actually, I get into this in number 3. But I'll give you a method for to help you process all of this. But so the first one is awareness, and then also knowing how to change it. So affirmations and goal setting and keeping your eye on the ball. So know where you're going. Know where you're going with your business. If you have a goal of having a big team and, you know, taking this thing full time, you can't spend too much time on, again, like this negative person who basically lashed out at me over a program that she hadn't tried. Like, so you have to observe when you're spending a lot of time, a lot of mental energy on someone where it's taking away from other things, or even if it's you're working too many hours on Beachbody and then you're taking away from being present with your family. You got to figure out how to be more efficient with the time that you have so that you can, again, because that's a goal too of, you know, we do this so we can be present for our families. So getting really good at observing, knowing what your goal is, and being really clear about which types of actions serve your goal, and then eliminate everything else. Affirmations can also help with this. And, you know, I've had different affirmations, different types of affirmations that I work with. There's a lesson on this in our new coach training too, but it's, you know, one thing is having your goal and visualizing, and then like, how would that person act? And if I want to like step into being that person, like say it's, you know, 15-star coach, full-time Beachbody coach, or even just feeling that you are an effective, accomplished coach that people are like jumping at the chance to work with. That behavior looks a little different than like someone who's scrambling for customers, right? So think about the person that you want to be, what you want to achieve, and act as if, like, what would that person be doing right now? How would they spend their time? And how can you make your business hours and your life look more like that person's life and schedule? All right, so observing and managing your mental state. That was number 1. Number 2, get in a headspace of absolute belief every day before you work on your business. So this is what I was talking about with basically believing that people would be dumb to say no to you. And by the way, a lot of people will still say no to you, but then you can have that like knowledge deep inside that maybe they'll eventually say yes later down the road. And once they do say yes, they're going to be blown away by how much they love what we offer and what you are providing as their coach. So think about when you were a kid. Think about what careers your parents talked to you about. So whatever your parents did for work, that's probably a career that you thought was a realistic option for you, right? And maybe when you got to high school or even college or like later in life, you met people who had careers that you'd never heard of before. And you're like, wow, if I had known about that, I might have tried to do that, but you just didn't even know it was an option. Can you think of anything like that? I can think of a lot. Like kids who grow up to be doctors, very often like a parent or a teacher suggested that they would be good at that. Same thing with a lawyer, or, if your parent is suggesting that you're become like an electrician or a plumber, whatever it is, whatever you see your parents doing, hear them talking about, and teachers are influential as well, the adults in your life when you're a kid, that's kind of your universe in terms of what you see as the options for you. So, like if you never knew, I'll give an example. So event planning, I am friends with a bunch of event planners, and I think I would really enjoy that, like organizing the details for be it weddings or business events, or even like travel, like a corporate travel planner. But that was not something that I even knew existed, right? Like we can't consider it. We can't decide what classes to take to do it, internships. Like we don't take any of those practical steps if we don't first believe that it's an option. So that's why it's important to get in this headspace of belief, because the actions that you take will be different depending on whether you truly believe that you are going to be successful with this business. Okay, keep your eye on your goal, get in a headspace of absolute belief that you can achieve it. And then number 3, when something triggers you, use it as an opportunity for reflection. And this is where I want to give you these questions that have been really powerful for me. So when you find something is pushing your buttons emotionally, like if you're feeling scared, if you're feeling like super angry, betrayed, feeling really hurt, emotions like that are very intense. Very often, this is triggering a memory for you of something that happened before, or it's triggering one of your fears about yourself. Like, so it's really difficult for me, like if something happens in a friendship and someone's mad at me, I almost feel like I can't breathe, and I like have this fear of not being a good friend. So I recognize that whatever happened might actually be a problem, but my response of like complete sheer panic on the inside is out of proportion to what is actually happening. So that's the kind of situation I'm talking about, and it has to do with imposter syndrome also, which Lisa was talking about on our team call today. But like if you kind of fear that you are not effective as a coach, or you fear you don't have the chops, the credentials, then if someone kind of pushes those buttons where they're questioning your abilities as a coach, it's going to feel like so scary. So when you start to feel that way and notice those really intense emotions coming up, step back and ask some questions. So these are some questions that have been really powerful for me. I journal about these when this happens. What is the worst thing about this situation? What do I fear is true? So that's where, I have this like suffocating fear of being a bad friend, being a bad coach, things like that. What if it were true? Being selfish is another one that's really a trigger for me. Like if I feel like someone is accusing me of being selfish. So that's where I ask myself, okay, what if it were true? What if I was selfish? Like, there's a lot of selfish people in the world. Like, I wouldn't necessarily be so proud of that, but, people have like different strengths, right? Like, it doesn't mean I'm a complete loser. And then, okay, so what if it were true? And then give me 3 reasons why it's not. Through all 3, comes from my coach and she swears a lot, but give me 3 reasons why it's complete bullshit is how she would say it. But so three reasons why is definitely not true. That's how I would interpret that. And most of the things that we have this visceral fear are actually not true. Or like at the root, like, you know, what do I fear is true? Okay, I fear that I'm selfish, but I fear that I'm like a bad person, a worthless person, you know, things like that. So then I would write down 3 reasons why that's definitely not true, and keep those in mind. So, and going through this process kind of as many times as it takes for the situation to start feeling less raw, so that when you do sit down next to work your business, or, you know, have a conversation with your spouse, whatever the situation is that you're applying this to, that you can feel more hopeful and confident and calm. So these are tools to help you work through these situations. And like I said at the beginning, this is, if you can learn these skills, it's going to benefit you so much in your business. And it actually is the most important thing that you can work on. Even more important than growing your network or learning about fitness and nutrition, or you know, learning how to use social media. Like, this is the foundation of it all. So I hope that this has been helpful, and I hope you will put some effort, time, and attention into this. Thanks, guys.